The preacher man says it's the end of time, and the Mississippi River, she's a gold.
Webster Tarpley is our guest. Coming up, I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court nominee, Kagan. I mean, this woman is an open authoritarian, 100% anti-American on record. And they're even admitting she has almost no judicial experience. And they say, oh, that's good. She's an outsider who believes they can violate the First Amendment and arrest citizens. She supports the legislation where you can be secretly stripped of citizenship and shipped away. And this has a good chance of passing. I mean, that's how serious the times are. This is bona fide, hardcore tyranny. Going back to Webster Griffin Tarpley. Okay, so we have the 1,000-point drop. The Wall Street Journal is even admitting this. That ties into what our guest yesterday was saying with these pre-sale orders and this manipulation. Now we hear it's Greece, $156 billion, then it's $600 billion, then it's $1 trillion. Now today, the Reuters headline, they need more than $1 trillion. And people are saying, where is the money going? What's happening? They're saying this came out of nowhere. Well, not according to you, Gerald Celente, Dr. Roberts, many others we've had on. This was all coming. I mean, we a year ago put this in the Obama deception. We named Greece. You named Portugal. You named Spain. You named Italy. Right down the list, and now the UK. Our debt ratios in the U.S. are as high as Greece. They're saying austerity. That's all you talk about in the Obama deception in the fall of the Republic. And the head of the IMF laughs 2 weeks ago and says the good times are over. Ha, ha, ha. We're going to take over the whole economy. So what's happening in Europe? Where is this going? What's behind it?
Well, the common basis between this catastrophe in Wall Street, the 1,000-point drop, and the attack on Greece is a couple of things. Hedge funds using derivatives. Hedge funds using derivatives attack the New York stock market, and hedge funds using derivatives attack Greece. A good reason to ban hedge funds, to ban many kinds of derivatives, to ban credit default swaps, which are the kind that are being used to attack Greece. Credit default swap means you're saying, I, sitting in a basement in my bathrobe, am an insurance company, and I can sell credit default swaps as insurance against the bankruptcy of some company that I know nothing about. And I have no cash reserves, and there's no state registration, there's no authority over me. It's absolute lawlessness. This is now the free market. It's the abyss. So it's time to re-regulate all of that. Now, in terms of the Europeans, we talked, I believe, on Sunday night when they were putting this together. What was already clear then was that this was a systemic crisis. In other words, a breakdown crisis threatening the disintegration of a large part of the world financial system, specifically the euro and the European Central Bank. Whatever you think of those institutions, and obviously nobody likes them. I mean, I don't like them, but the idea that a chaotic collapse and catastrophic disintegration of these things would be good for anybody is very wrong. But what is clear is by Friday, you had this systemic crisis. Trichet, the head of the European Central Bank, said so. Olli Rehn, this faceless bureaucrat of the European Commission who runs these matters for them, has said the same thing. The systemic crisis was the crisis of interbank lending, what they call the interbank plumbing. It's the willingness of Barclays Bank to lend money to Deutsche Bank and vice versa, Banco de Bilbao, Santander, Unicredito of Italy, Société Générale of France, BNP Paribas. We know all these big European zombie banks. So they had reached the point where every bank was looking at every other bank and saying, I don't trust you because you have Greek bonds. And the other bank would say, I don't trust you because you have Portuguese bonds, and so on down the line. So that had frozen. And that had frozen by Friday. That was the emergency. That is what you had in the United States right after the collapse of Lehman Brothers there in the 15th, 20th, 25th of September 2008. Systemic breakdown crisis. So therefore, the European finance ministers get into this emergency meeting there in Brussels on Sunday, and they come up with this $1 trillion monstrosity. And basically everything that could be wrong with this is wrong. It's not really money. It's a commitment to come up with money. It's like Paulson coming out in 2008, right, the Secretary of the Treasury, saying, we will ask Congress for a $750 billion bailout of Wall Street derivatives. that has to be voted on. And you can remember, right, there was a moment when the House of Representatives said no. I think you've got 27 parliaments in the European Union that will have to vote on this. That's going to be chaotic. There may be somebody who says no. There are 16 countries that are in the euro. Not everybody who's in Europe is in the euro, and they will also have a say. The thing that ought to interest us is the International Monetary Fund of this awful Strauss-Kahn that you've just mentioned, the guy who laughs at human misery and genocide. Really, they are going to give 30 billion, let's call it 40 billion US dollars to Greece, and they're also supposed to come up with 250 billion euros. Let's call that what, 200 and let's call it 300 billion, 350 billion US dollars. Let's say it comes to 400 billion US dollars in loans from the International Monetary Fund to Greece and to the European Union and to these other countries. Well, remember, the U.S. government represents 17.5% of the IMF, so almost one-fifth of that money. You can say something like 70 billion US dollars is being given by you, the taxpayer, to these countries. But the real culprits are those hedge funds. You can thank the hedge fund hyenas and the zombie banks, because these governments are now putting their hands in their pocket, your pocket, to get this money.
Well, that's right. The governments are going to be giving a lot of this money to the very culprits that sold them the derivatives. And when you talk about a 1.5 quadrillion, there's no way to ever pay this off. It's designed as a financial weapon. And we have the big private banks saying, we're now going to establish a Bank of the World. You're going to pay a global VAT financial, not from the banks, but from the people on all financial transactions to them. There's going to be a new UN tax that's in the news today. World Health Organization moving ahead on billions on internet and other taxes. And so boil it down for us. Where is Europe going? Why do we see Brown leaving? Why do we see Merkel in trouble, Sarkozy in trouble, saying no to the carbon tax? How do you see this fleshing out? Because now there's, yesterday they said, we're saved, the trillion saves us. And then now today, I have the headlines, they say, it's not enough. It's still going down. We need more.
Well, yes, in other words, bailouts don't work. I think the two things we ought to start with is bailouts don't work. Austerity doesn't work, right? You cut the budget this year. You think you're going to balance the budget for the next year. Lo and behold, you cut the budget now. Your deficit will be bigger next year because your cuts have destroyed significant parts of the economic activity of society. You've taken government workers and other workers and made them into unemployed or even welfare recipients.
And we see that happening now where California raises taxes but actually cuts services, and the economy implodes even faster. Sure. They know that.
Absolutely. That's everybody has known that since Keynes and even before. It's obvious. The other thing is bailouts don't work, and we see this now. This $1 trillion was able to get the euro up by 2 American pennies, and now it's down to 1 American penny, I think, as I'm looking at the screens here. So this has failed. And if you look at the European banks, the ones that I just mentioned, Deutsche Bank and Barclays and the rest of them, they're going down today. They're down 2, 3, 4, 5%. So it is a failure. Yes, this trillion is not enough. The approach that they should have taken is to say, if you're under attack by hedge funds, ban hedge funds. Now, there was a discussion in the European Parliament yesterday that if you have hedge funds from outside of Europe that want to come in, they have to get a passport. In other words, they have to get a permit to do their speculative dirty work. And that would be a start, except that the process in the European bureaucracy, they say, takes 1 to 2 years. That's hopeless. In 2 years, there won't be any more European Union. There won't be a euro. There won't be a European central bank.
And by the way, you've been saying that forever and saying 2010, 2011. I mean, I just want to be on record, Tarpley, that you've been very accurate. And now they're going from always denying that the EU could collapse or that our country could collapse. They're now admitting that the euro is in serious danger of collapse.